Guys, what's going on? It's a 2-minute drill where we break down topics in about 2-3 minutes that's going to help you get better. So in this case, we're going to talk about vertical jump training, talking about getting stronger and how you can do that even if you're over 30 like me. So if you're younger, this is going to apply to you, and if you're older, this is also going to apply to you. So in my opinion, if you want to jump higher, even if you're over the age of 30 like me, you got to focus on these 3 to 4 things. And I'd be surprised if after 3 to 6 months of doing it, you wouldn't be jumping higher, especially if you're not very good at doing it right now. So number one, you gotta get strong. If you get strong, you're gonna produce more force. F equals ma, force equals mass times acceleration. So if we move more weight, your force is gonna go up. If you can move the weight as fast as possible, obviously it does a big thing as well in terms of your nervous system, in terms of recruiting muscle fibers, all that kind of stuff. But also it just builds the base for all the other progressions we're gonna do, from plyometrics to other strength lifts, right? It just really helps in the long run. So 1.5 times body weight on a back squat, front squat, double on a trap bar, it would be really good numbers to aim for. I think there is a certain cutoff where like maybe chasing too much strength might actually not be a benefit to you. But for the most part, you look at Chinese weightlifters, guys who just lift really, really heavy, like all the best jumpers I know, I've seen on YouTube, especially 2-foot jumpers, they all have a ridiculous strength, right? And all those like Chinese weightlifters, you see them jump, they can do box jumps like I don't even know how high, but they don't have very good coordination, so obviously they can't dunk, but they can jump pretty high and grab room easy. So that kind of takes you into the second part, which is if you want to be better at jumping, you got to jump more, but also if you want to be better at dunking, you got to try to dunk more. So once you can jump high, you then got to tie it into how do you do it with the ball. And that's just where specificity comes in, which is just the concept of if you want to get better at the thing, do the thing more. But the problem we have in the fitness world and training world, S&C world, all that stuff is you love to try to make exercises and put them in your session and feel like those exercises are going to carry over even more. It's like, no, we don't need super fancy shit in the weight room. Honestly, most people just need to get stronger, work on their mechanics, work on building power and finding exercises that suits them, and then just keep playing your sport and then keep jumping outside of practice and all that kind of stuff. So I would focus on coordination, right? Mechanics, video yourself, make sure you know what the hell you're doing, break it down against the best jumpers, see what they do, and just try to mimic them as best you can. The younger you are doing that, the more it's going to carry over in the long run. The older you are, the harder it's going to be, all right? That's just the reality of it. Also, older guys, we don't recover as well in terms of doing a shit ton of jumping versus the younger guys. So we have to be smarter. Maybe you just have to do a few jumps a couple times a day throughout the week rather than doing like some big jumping sessions. Now, when we're talking about power, think about power in the sense of how much force can you produce in a really short amount of time. So think about impulse. If you looked at a graph, it's like how quick or how high is that impulse going to be on the graph. We can think about cleans here, high pulls, trap bar high pulls, power cleans, Olympic lifts. For me, honestly, I find that most people struggle to learn to clean on their own. So I just refer them to a trap bar high pull. I think you can produce just as much force, if not more. The only caveat is you don't really get that kind of like bar feedback from like hitting it and catching it. But again, I used it and I didn't do any cleans for a really long time. And I was still able to get windmills and 360s and jump higher than I ever have because I jumped a lot. I got strong as hell. And I just made sure my high pulls were explosive as possible. And I just followed a structured program. So all of that stuff coupled with making sure you're just building resilience in your tendons and your ligaments, you're building breaks. When I say building breaks, think about things that help you turn on and off. So like I used to like to do a lot of flywheel work because then I was going aggressively down and then aggressively punching up, which is kind of similar to when you're going into a 2-foot approach jump. Like you're having to redirect that force, like decelerate, accelerate really fast. Doing eccentric squats, which means like 3 to 5 second tempos on the way down, single leg tempos where you're doing a box squat, a leg press, whatever. Like these are all things that help you build breaks. Depth jumps are really good at doing that. Single leg depth jumps. Isometrics are really good at just building integrity, getting you strong, especially as you're older. Maybe you have a few kind of, pains and little things that you have to get rid of. Just, you always have to be as healthy as you can if you're going to start doing more aggressive things. Because if you start to patch the holes now, and then you're trying to jump higher and sprint and do all these things, like it's not going to really work for you because you're just going to end up, popping a tire down the road anyways. And then you can't do the stuff that you want. So you wasted 3 to 4 months because you didn't want to take care of the shit originally. Now, the last thing I would say is normally when I was jumping my highest, like I was also sprinting the most. So I was always like alternating between my sprints and my jumps. Sometimes I do them in the same session. Like I just did what felt good at the time, in terms of what my body felt ready to go and do. And honestly, the more I sprinted, the more I did acceleration sprints or resistance sprints, the more I was jumping higher. So obviously, it's the most reactive thing you can do is sprint. And then it's probably one of the most explosive things you can do is max jump. So it doesn't really surprise me that those two things are going to correlate and kind of help each other, as well as getting stronger and then also improving my rate of force development, aka building power, high pulls, cleans, all that kind of stuff. So hopefully that makes sense. But that's honestly what I'd be focusing on. And as you approach the off season, you should be focusing on like getting bigger and stronger, because stronger muscles are bigger muscles, stronger muscles, building a really good base, focusing on how you're going to improve your strength over time, and then how you're going to structure in things like your high pulls and your cleans and your jumps and your extensives, and like at what point you start introducing quarter squats and eccentric squats and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions though, just drop them below.